of the businesses, we haven't taken a particular, we haven't made a
The board hasn't come up with something?
No, sir. No, there's been no vote or anything by the board.
Now, when you're talking about the eight people playing, does this business not have anybody standing around waiting for a spot to open up?
Okay, so there's two things. The 8 people playing, the one that looks to me like an arcade game. I don't really understand these all that well, but the one that looks like an arcade game is not even in our building, the one that we operate. But I know that there's some existing, and they're called like fish games or something. And I'm not sure if there's people waiting around, you know, to sit. Now, in our particular building, sometimes there are people waiting for particular computers, but that doesn't mean that outside in the parking lot, that the parking lot's full. Does that make sense?
Well, I understand it, but
Yeah.
if we're talking players, I understand you're limited with the number of tables or terminals or whatever you have. But any place that's gaming usually has folks waiting for machines for some sort, whether it's an arcade or whatever.
If it's
I can remember an arcade,
yeah.
I'm sure you can. There's always someone over your shoulder putting a quarter down ready to play
That's
pool
right.
or whatever.
That's right.
And so what do you do for parking spaces? Not that your business has been affected, but the others. You know, we got to do this
Across the board.
across the board.
Completely agree
So
with you.
no matter how big you guys are, we still have to consider the other folks. So I'm not taking a shot at your guy who's in the business to put people to work, but these other folks in the business that may not have his goal of making everybody happy.
Okay, so first off, your question is, what about the person that's waiting? The actual ordinance as it sits now, it says that there has to be one terminal per parking space. So there has to be a parking space per terminal. And so if there's not that, I mean, that's how you limit the number of players there. If we change it so that it's one per, and Janet had the verbiage right, but it's one per simultaneous player, then it would clarify that particular thing. And the only way that you know if anybody's following the rules of anything that you pass is to send in and have enforcement. I can tell you from personal knowledge that they've done an outstanding job of enforcement. They've sent people in spot checks, and I think they've done a great job. I am not going to knock the city staff for the decisions that they're bringing to you at all, but they've done a good job of enforcement through this, and I think that that's one of the problems they saw, and they saw it need to be fixed. And that would fix that. If you did it one per each simultaneous, then if you had 8 and you had 8 people around it, those 8 people wouldn't necessarily be able to have a parking space, is what I'm saying. And if there's a problem with parking, I mean, it's sort of like at Fleming Stadium. If there's a problem with parking, then of course the police, you know, the chief would send people out there to say, you can't park in the middle of the street right here. What in the world are you doing? And it's like that with